Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's TokiTV. Today is what is today? The 24th, July 24th, and we are here for our weekly gathering in faith, prayer, and education for our dear Sk'aliCh'elh-tenaut. As always, please type your name and where you're watching from. This is being watched on my page, on the Orca Network Lolita page, on YouTube, and on many, many other groups. I think the last time I saw there was 28 shares to different groups. So I know you guys are watching from all over the place. And so if you're not watching from one group, I don't know if you'll see the other. So put your name in there so we can highlight it and let everyone know where you're watching from. Before we do check-ins, let's turn our attention over to Roberto, who has graciously agreed to pray us in today.
Yes, well, good afternoon from Florida. I guess it's good morning somewhere else, and good evening. I know people are tuning from everywhere else. It's very hot in Florida, as in many places around the globe. And thank you. I'm going to open with the chanting of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which is the mantra I've been praying since last year. For myriads of reasons and goals and visions, and that includes to see the freedom of TokiTV. So I'm just going to chant for a minute, and as always, I invite everybody to just act naturally. You can close your eyes, keep them open. Anything you all choose to do. That's there are no rules for this. Let's all keep just one vision together, which is to see what we want to see at the end. So let's go from the point of victory first, in other words, and see the result as if it had already happened. And here I go for 1 minute. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, 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 Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, 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 Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, 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 Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, 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 Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Thank you. And my intention from the beginning to begin this spiritual um, campaign for TokiTV was to make the universe our ally. Okay, for this purpose. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, to love cause and effect. We're making causes for the liberation of these and other animals. And we are using our voices, we are using our minds, we're using all the resources we can use. There has to be an effect from that, and that's a law of causality, which works in the entire universe, and it transcends time and space. So even though I'm praying here from Florida, this expands to every corner of the universe and every person I'm in touch with. So I don't know, Annette, if you want me to share some of the reflections or the
Yeah,
quotes that I share with you this week and other
yeah,
week.
there's a few things. So, I'm lucky enough to get quotes in conversation with Roberto throughout the week, and I'll start posting those because they really are inspiring to me. So I want to share that with all of you. But before we do that quote, Roberto, the last few weeks you've been doing something a little different when you've been going to the Seaquarium to pray. I know you've been there at some very different times. So why don't you tell us about that and then maybe share a little bit about your experience in connection with her when you're doing that?
Yes, thank you. I did it about a month ago before traveling to Maine, where I was going to participate to a residency at the Institute for Humane Education. And I said, well, let me go Friday morning very early before heading to Maine on Sunday. So I wanted to leave like Saturday off to rest and go there with, to this residency to whatever thoughts I could get from the experience of being there. Um, and I decided to go very early, kind of. I think I wanted to feel, and of course, it will never be the same, what it would be for TokiTV to wake up another day um, at the Miami Seaquarium. What does the sky look like? What sounds are going on around? And so I started to do my chanting by the parking lot, and I could feel. Well, these are the realizations that I got um, that day, then and there. Um, I feel like this whole ordeal of 52 years, TokiTV has been teaching us lessons that because we haven't quite learned yet, I think that's why she has stayed there longer than she didn't need to be. One of those lessons, I would say, um, and this is very common in social justice advocacy. There can be a lack of unity, so people will want to use certain strategies. Others want to use their own way to do things. Others will want to do it more aggressively, others more passively, and so on. And that always makes social change take much longer, to happen. And that was my realization. I could feel that we all of us who are not TokiTV are suffering more for her than she's suffering for herself inside that pool. And that doesn't mean I'm okay with her being in there. That's still an injustice, and that's undeniable. But that was the realization I had that morning. It's like she's waiting to see humans live in more harmony. Just let's look at the temperatures and the climate change. This is evidence of the the level of disharmony in which we're living in the planet among humans and with the environment, with the ecosystem. And and this is an answer, this is a reaction to that disharmony, how we're treating animals and every other living being, even in sentient beings. Then yesterday I said, well, since I went one early morning, let me try when it's a nighttime. Let me go like around 7 o'clock when the sun sets until 9 o'clock. I went back there. It's not an easy experience to do this alone. These things have to be done like we're doing it here, united, together with others. Um, so I said, well, let me see what that sky looks like when it gets dark, and I could feel like the time was slowing down as it was getting darker and darker. And I just tried to fathom what it would feel being in this repetitive, existence day after day, year after year. It's like you see it's the same reality time after time. And that is unconscionable. But on the positive side, people who walk by do respect what I'm doing. I never have trouble, and even got a high five from a young lady who said, "I love what you're doing." So I want you to know that there are people here in Miami, even though they don't participate directly in any of the campaigns or demonstrations, that their heart is where our heart is with respect to Tokitai. And and I'm sure most inhabitants in Miami, if not Florida, support seeing Tokitai back to her original, land and waters. Um, so yeah, those were my reflections while I was there. Um, I feel very strongly since last year that this year has to be the one. I just have that strong feeling, and I came the first time with that determination, not even a wishful thinking. I said this has to happen this year, and yeah, there's no compromise in that belief on my part.
Thank you for everything you do, and I know, when you said my heart just my heart breaks a lot, and then it breaks open. And when you said, it's hard to do that alone, and I think about her doing that alone at night. And
Mm.
thank you for being there and sharing your energy with her. Um,
Yes.
Before we check in with a few others, I just want to. I talked a little bit about the quotes you sent, and I wanted to share one with people today, because we are here to every week. I had to write a description of Toki TV the other day, and I'm like, I don't even know what we are. Like, we get on here and we hang out, and but really what we are is providing a space for people to gather together, to pray. And I mean, we're all praying all week. We're all doing everything that we do all week, and we're posting and we're calling and we're talking, and we're doing everything that we can and know how. But this is the one time where we can all be together. People can chat. People can come on the show if they want to come on the show. It's just an opportunity for us to engage in this. It's so big. It's so big, and I'll just share what, Tammy typed this in. This movement is such a beautiful example of divine love in action, and it is, and we're in it together. And so that's what we are. That's what we're doing here, every single week. I'm going to go ahead and just find that quote that you sent me, and if you want to read it, Roberto, and then just tell us why this rang true for you. I mean, when Howard and I were looking at it a minute ago, it's definitely true for us.
Okay. It reads, a spirituality that is only private and self-absorbed, one devoid of an authentic political and social consciousness, does little to help the suicidal juggernaut of history. On the other hand, an activism that is not purified by profound spiritual and psychological self-awareness will only perpetuate the problem it is trying to solve, however righteous its intentions. When, however, the deepest and most grounded spiritual vision is married to a practical and pragmatic drive to transform all existing political, economic, and social institutions, a holy force, the power of wisdom and love in action, is born. This force I define as sacred activism, which is what we are doing here. And it's not only spirituality, it's also education, it's also science. I mean, spirituality isn't just born from spontaneously. That's why religions, they have writings, they have teachings. We learn from experiences, from mistakes. And as the quote is saying, it's not devoid from connections with the rest of life. You need also the pragmatic, the actions, and um, to make that change an effective one. Um, so this is great, what you're doing and what you've been doing. Um,
And it's all of us. Thank you. Thank you for being with us and for willing to keep coming back on with us, Roberto.
pleasure.
You definitely add to that. I Oh, thanks, Deb. I want to check in with everyone. I know that there's some new viewers I saw on the page. The group has grown quite a bit, and some of the questions lead me to think that maybe a recap would be good. And so I'm going to do a brief recap. And Howard, correct me before we get to this point. But I'm just going to do a brief recap of what's been going on basically since February. I mean, we all know the USDA got involved, and nobody has seen her, since August, since late last year. But in February, we got reports that she was ill, and people rose up. I mean, you guys rose up, and letters were written, and phone calls were made, and so much has happened, and all of this in transition of new owners, the Dolphin Company, and um, the big USDA report came out, and they said we're no longer, you can no longer show her. She's no longer part of the Whale Stadium's closed. That's part of the license, which we're going to get to the newest news in a little bit. And so what that has done is it's prompted a lot of action. Friends of Lolita, the nonprofit, was formed. Pritam Singh came in with his, $1 million um, uh, donation, if you will, and formed the group Friends of Lolita. They are working with the matriarchs from the Lummi Nation, who are leading the charge from there. They're in conversations. They're on the board. And there's all these conversations, and with the Whale Sanctuary Project, and all these people are now working and sitting down with, which we need to give credit to the Dolphin Company for having these conversations, because for 40 some years, as Howard can personally attest to, the previous owners would not have these conversations. That it wasn't even a conversation. And the Dolphin Company is, and they're sitting down and they're having these really great conversations. And not only are they having the conversation like, oh yeah, we'll listen to it, they're doing something about it. They've allowed independent veterinarians, vets to come in and assess Toki's health, which is massive news. And I mean, it's like the Dolphin Company came in and they said, okay, we're now the owners. Yes, we're going to work with these people. Yes, we're going to work with Friends of Lolita. Yes, you can bring in your own vets. I mean, they have not just said they're going to listen, they're listening, and they're allowing things to happen. So the vets that are now going in are giving monthly reports. I know we're all on pins and needles because it's been exactly 30 days and we're waiting for that next report, which I'm assuming will be out this week. I thought it'd be out late this past week, but and so what we're all doing is everybody wants her home. We all want her home, and there's a conversation about her health, and the vets that are assessing her health and going in to see her are very trusted. And Howard can talk more about that if he would like to, but we trust these vets to give us the what's so about her actual health. They're not going to make a recommendation that's going to harm her. So for those of you who are new, that's why we're here every week. We're here to keep up with the what's happening, and to pray for her healing and her health, because that right now is what's determining the next steps, is her health. And Alejandro will say this, and I love when he says it, so we'll let him say it again after me, but it's on her time. And so, yes, I know people don't want to hear, well, we have to wait for her health, because we all know she's going to be better when she goes home. We all know those waters are going to be so healing for her. And we know that in our hearts, and we want that to happen already, but we're going to trust this process because so far it's working. And I know, man, the waiting for that monthly report is like, but yeah, Howard's waited 40 years, so, so we need to, Well, yeah, Alejandro. I mean, come on. I mean, we've this stuff has been so yes, I know it's hard, but that's why we're here. We're here every single week to continue to pray for her and her health. And then we're going to talk about the newest piece of information that came out this week. But before we do that, because I feel like we need to check in with Alejandro. Alejandro, if you could unmute yourself and let's check in with you real quick and just see how you're doing there in Miami.
I agree with you 100% every word you said. We have to be patient, and it's not about our time, it's about her time for healing and be ready to go home. I thank you so much for your kind words, Robert. I think and I feel deeply into my heart that Lolita is a warrior, she's an angel, and she came to this world for teaching us, like you said, for teaching us. And I think we are learning now what's going on with her. You know, she went through many bad things during her life, eh? Hurricanes, storms, and many other bad things, and still survived. She's alive, and I want to thanks to the Lamy people for helping her to back home because she belongs to Lamy family. She belongs to Lamy family, and of course, it's our family now.
You said that perfectly, Alejandro. We are
Thank
we
you.
are definitely family. Deb, hello from the Pacific Northwest in her famous wave. And Howard, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. And enjoying being on TokiTV and presenting all this great information. And you know what Alejandro said and Robert about her teaching us about uh, how we can learn. And I certainly have learned so much from her about patience, about composure, about graciousness, about acceptance, uh, and maintaining, good health, spiritual and mental health, and physical health that follows from that. And I just think she's been a teacher for all of us. If we will see her and listen and try to understand, as so many are now, I think we can learn so much that is so beneficial for all of us.
Resilient. She's
So we have some several actually anniversaries, you could say, that we need to talk about today, and one is TokiTV. And it's been 4 years now since she lost her baby at birth or shortly after, and carried her baby for 17 days in front of all of us, 1,000 miles or more, and that's at great duress. It's hard to do to do that and continue to swim and to catch anything, and with help from her offspring and other family members. But she carried that baby, and that awakened everyone to what they are going through and to the grief that she showed, and it was during the governor's Orca Recovery Task Force. So it awakened that, sort of official gathering, that they are desperate for more salmon. They absolutely need more, and that is still true today. So that and there is a beautiful write-up done by our education and advocacy uh, department, Cindy Hansen, on the main Orca Network Facebook page that I refer you all to.
let's go ahead and talk about that just a little bit, Howard. Because we were going to talk about that today. So thank you. Also, whoever posted that there on the screen, for bringing that, because that's definitely important. And when Roberto's talking about, here to teach us a lesson and here to unite people, is, what better time to relate that? She's taught us more than in that 17 days, then so much has happened since then. And I just want to share a couple of things that were on that post by Cindy. Cindy did a beautiful job. A lot's happened because of her bringing that awareness, you know. So it says, so what's changed since that tragic time 4 years ago? What steps have been made to protect the lives of TokiTV and her family? The tour of grief began, like you were just talking about, regarding the task force, and led to increased calls for bold action. Ultimately, the task force created 49 recommendations for orca recovery, which led to several pieces of legislation and millions of dollars in funding. Washington State now has an orca recovery coordinator, which is a new position that was created as a result of the task force. Vessels are now required to slow down in the vicinity of southern residents and keep their distance to decrease the levels of noise pollution and give the orcas an opportunity to forage. In 2019, the Safer Products for Washington Act passed, which is the nation's strongest law regulating toxic chemicals and products. For the first time, the needs of southern residents have been considered in ocean fisheries. Salmon habitat restoration and forage fish recovery efforts are taking place throughout the region. Canada has implemented management measures to protect salmon, minimize disturbance from vessels, and reduce the threat of contaminants. There's also dams being removed. Nooksack, I'm going to mess up some of these names, Pilchuck Rivers, the Klamath River dams are scheduled to come down beginning next year. And the dial is finally beginning to move in the right direction for breaching the lower Snake River dams. The president even chimed in on that this last week. And so there's a lot that's happened. There's still a lot that needs to happen, which is also highlighted on that post. So we'll share that as well. And while we might not all agree with the direction of all the recovery actions, it's clear that up and down the West Coast, there's a collective sense of urgency and desire to help the southern resident orcas. There's still much work to be done, and the commitment and bold actions must continue. We've lost several more orcas, so let's take a moment to just acknowledge Scarlett, Princess Angeline, Scotter, Nissa, Mega, Cappuccino, and Marina. They've all lost their lives since this time. But there's also a cause for celebration. There's been 7 successful births since 2019, including TokiTV's son, J57 Phoenix. These calves give us much hope. They motivate us to continue efforts to provide plentiful salmon for the little ones and their families, and for more healthy babies in the future. So, Orca Network's dedicating the next 17 days of action to Whistle, Tofino, Phoenix, Crescent, Element, and the J59 and the baby K45. So follow Orca Network Langley Whale Center on Instagram. There's 17 actions you can take to help the southern residents. There's going to be one for each day of TokiTV's tour of grief. On day 17, Orca Network will post the entire list on their Facebook page in hopes that you will use it as a guide and complete as many items as you can in the coming months. So check out orcanetwork.org. On Facebook, check out their Facebook page. We're going to be doing some cool stuff with them here in a couple of weeks as well. But lots to grieve and lots to celebrate. Howard, is there anything more you want to say about the 17 days coming up?
Well, no, I think that you and Cindy covered it very well. I just refer people to the Orca Network main Facebook page for more information and comment, and to read up on it, and to see the 17 suggested ways you can help.
Very cool. Let's talk just a little bit, Howard, about the latest press release this week. We're also another anniversary we're celebrating here is Springer in a minute. So, but
Right.
let's talk a little bit about that press release. I'm sure most people know what I'm talking about. I mean, I can flash the letter if we want. How do you want to approach that, Howard?
Well, it's from a whole list of highly esteemed, very powerful U.S. representatives, bipartisan, originating from Florida, Representative Salazar, and co-authored by Suzanne Del Bene here in Washington, and signed on by my own legislator, Rick Larson, and by Jared Huffman, who is the chair of the subcommittee in charge of oversight of the Endangered Species Act, and Adam Schiff, who is a mover and a shaker and one of my favorites in Congress. And what the letter says is what's going on there, legislatively or regulatory wise, because right now, I mean, and it is an unprecedented and kind of worrying situation, that in order for the dolphin company to be granted the lease from the county, Miami-Dade County, they needed to be licensed by the USDA. So the USDA approved of all of the rest of the park, but they said this does not apply to the whale stadium or the inhabitants, which are TokiTV and Lee, the Pacific white-sided dolphin in there, uh, which is, they're in limbo. They're basically off limits. The USDA has relinquished their oversight, their responsibility, and there is no other government agency, local or federal or in any way, that has any kind of oversight, to go in, do inspections, make sure things are going well. She's basically just a possession of the dolphin company now. And that is unprecedented and very worrying, because if another place decides to just have an animal on a roadside attraction, they would not have any oversight. If they could cite this as a precedent that they could follow, and then they could do whatever they want with whatever animal they may have, and that is not good. So these legislators are saying, who's in charge here? Where is the government oversight to make sure that the animals are okay? And I understand the reasons for that. What remains to be seen are the effects, in terms of cause and effect. Sk'aliCh'elh-tenaut. What is the next event to happen from that letter? It's going to draw a huge amount of attention, media attention, and definitely government eyes on the place. But what will be the result? My assumption, when that happened back in March, when the dolphin company took over and they were left in limbo, Toki and the dolphin, that told me that there was a kind of a behind the scenes understanding that this is very temporary. She just needs to be declared healthy and fit, and she's going home. And that was sort of everybody's understanding. And it may well be. And I think that's the only option. I just don't see any other option. What I don't want to see is some kind of pressure on the dolphin company to ship her to SeaWorld or some other place. I don't think SeaWorld would want to do that, because it would be their liability and their, bad publicity. And they're very averse to that. And I just don't, it would not end well for anybody. For Toki is my concern. But for SeaWorld, it wouldn't end well for them either. So I don't think they want to do that. And I would hate to see some kind of, government pressure to do that. So I still think the only alternative is for her to come home to her native waters. And that I think will be the ultimate result of that letter. But, it's sort of up in the air right now, way too much, but that seems to be the direction it's going. But we have to just wait and see what happens.
Right. Thank you for checking in, because I know people are like, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? And I mean, we don't know, right? But we can make assumptions. I'm prayerful that the USDA may go in and just say, okay, this is what the plan is. If anything, maybe a little more transparency on what's happening on the back end. But she's being cared for. We know that we know she's being cared for, because there's vets that we love and trust who are going in and making sure of that. So So we know there's that, and I know what the letter is saying. We know what there's the three statutes at play, right? The Animal Welfare Act, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and then the Endangered Species Act. So they're saying, okay, where's the oversight? We're always asking on things. What can we do? What can we do? And we always say here on TokiTV, one heart, one mind, stay positive. So if you guys want to send a thank you to these members of Congress who signed on this letter, I'm not going to put everyone's email address on here, but if you go to www.house.gov/representatives, you can search there for, and if someone wants to type that in the link on Facebook or YouTube, please feel free to do that. But you can go there and get the where you can send a message to, and just, maybe a thank you, because they're doing it obviously because they care. And so we want to thank them for that. So I've had the names scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So you can go back and watch it and write them down. So you can send thank yous if you want to do that. Or you can just look on the Orca Network Lolita Facebook page, and you'll see the post there that you're able to get the names from there as well.
And we'll see in the coming week what the results are. I think it'll result in a lot more attention, media, and just popular attention. Just the people who read our pages will ask, what is going on there, and I hope that the result of that will be more transparency, more information about how she's doing on a day-to-day basis. Photos and videos and personal accounts, and just give us a sense of how she is, her behavior and her physical condition. So I would just, I'm hungry for more information, and I think that it'll help bring out a lot of that.
We're gonna get it now, I think. Sharon said she thought NOAA was oversight, or is that just if she's transferred? And Howard, you can answer that, but I believe that is when she is transferred, or when the transfer is about to happen. That's when NOAA's
right. As soon as a plan is submitted to NOAA, then they go in here and they will have to decide on that plan, make recommendations, modify it, make sure it's safe for her. And I think all the protocols that are well known, that are standard routine practices, basically are enough. So I there's no question in my mind, and from everyone that I have talked to who has a lot of experience in this, that it can be done extremely safely, according to the steps that are outlined, that have been done actually, 100 times by the industry, and that her rehabilitation plan is completely sound. So I don't see any question that it really will be safe, but there have been decades of misinformation, I think, or slanted information from the industry in general, including this aquarium, to agency officials and to the scientific community in general, to convince everybody that, it is so dangerous to take a captive whale or dolphin out of captivity into a natural setting, into the actual ocean, any normal natural habitat, that could be so dangerous. And it's sort of been this kind of gospel that has been part of the scientific community and the permitting agencies. So they're going to need to overcome that. But I'm afraid that they are afraid that they fear failure, they fear embarrassment, that they are just so indoctrinated basically into this belief that it's dangerous that they will hesitate. I think that's a lot of the reason for the hesitation now. So they need to get over that and look at the actual plans and the precedents and the history and the science, and assess it realistically, and see that this can be done safely, and they can make sure it is. But that is when their oversight comes in, is when there is a plan to return her.
And so much is changing and shifting. I mean, things, we talked about this last week. I mean, things are just lining up how they should for her and her best interest. So someone's asking, could this backfire? I personally don't see that or feel that, because there's a good plan for her, and it's in place, you guys. These conversations are happening. We're not privy to every single one of them, and that's okay, because I love and trust the people who are. And things are happening. Things are lining up the way they are for her. It's her time. Like Roberto said, it has to be this year. I mean, it is her time. It's her time to come home. And if nothing else, this just promotes some more questions and some more oversight. And there's nothing wrong with that. The more people looking for her best interest, right on, right on, bring it on, because we're all here for her, and to get her home. And so we're gonna keep going with that. And Howard, I just shortened your time to talk about Springer, like from here to
Okay.
here, but we knew this was big. We knew this was big.
Yeah.
We knew this was big news, and we're going to stay positive, and we're going to keep praying for her health, because again, like Alejandro says, and we all say, like, it's on her time, not our time. And so, number one, we just keep bringing it back to her health and safety is the number one priority, her healing, and that's what we're continuing to pray for. Every single week and throughout the week. So thank you all for being here with us to do that. We do want to touch base on a successful return home to their family. We want to talk a little bit about Springer, because we're also on an anniversary there of 20 years that Springer was reunited with her family. So Howard, if you want to talk a little bit about it, I will just start flashing some pictures up while
Okay.
you're talking. And I
All
sorry
right.
we
I'll go fast.
but we're going to go with it.
Well, first I have to set the table here. I have to sort of give a sense of the times, and we're talking about late 2001 and very early January. The first 2 weeks of January 2002. So something that I see as related was in November 2001 was the biennial conference of the Society for Marine Mammalogy. This is the preeminent global association of whale and dolphin scientists. And it was held in Vancouver, British Columbia, right up the road from us that year. And we went, and there were two very profound scientific achievements that were, announced and discussed there. And one was a workshop on culture in whales and dolphins, held by Hal Whitehead, who co-authored the paper Culture in Whales and Dolphins, which established that orcas, and it really, I mean, although it was a survey of every whale and dolphin study in the world, the focus was on orcas and on the results of the field studies of southern resident orcas. And that is in the context of the studies of all the other communities of orcas. But the main finding was that they have the capability and that they live in cultures that are they're tradition bound, learned cultures that, as the abstract states, have no parallel in the animal kingdom except in humans. In other words, obviously, we live in very complicated cultures that we learn as we grow, and the same is true of orchids. So it established that every orca in the wild is a member of their family, their community, their traditional culture. And that's a profound insight. And also at that conference in November 2001, Lori Marino announced the results of her studies, co-authored with Diana Rice, who is on the board of Friends of Lolita, by the way. And their study was to demonstrate mirror self-recognition in dolphins. And what that means is self-awareness, that they know who they are, that they are distinct individuals, they understand their surroundings, they are aware, completely aware of themselves and others around them, that they are fully conscious and aware. And of course, they have long-term memories. You can't have cultures without long-term memories. So all of this, I took in as, okay, those are quantum leaps in our understanding of orcas. Now let's apply it. Let's look at what that means in terms of how we deal with the orcas that we are affecting, that are under our somehow control, or that we are impacting in some way. Okay, so at that conference also, there was a secret meeting among just a few of the very dedicated field researchers. And what that meeting revealed was the secret held by a few of the Canadian researchers, that there was a young orca that had been in a cove called Nootka Bay, Nootka Sound, excuse me, off the west coast of Vancouver Island since the previous July, and nobody knew about it. And this was a southern resident orca. This was L98 Luna, and he had been there since then as a young, probably 3-year-old at first. He was there for about 5 years until his very untimely demise, unfortunately. But this was the announcement that he was there, and that was unprecedented. Southern residents of any age don't just stray off. So that was news. And then also on January 1st of 2002, a female transient washed up on a beach right off the Olympic Peninsula at Dungeness Spit, and died there, beached herself and expired on the beach. And a young male, no doubt her son, was also there, and he was obviously in deep despair and grief. And for 2 nights during high tide, he went up on the beach and let the tide go out, and was stranded there on the beach himself, near his mother. He was just going to pass away and go with her. And finally, after 2 nights of that, with people coming out to care for him, to get him wet, keep him wet, and put blankets over him and everything, they were able to tow him out very carefully with a big soft rope, and he did travel freely and got out of there. But that was a big event, and there were stories that there might have been a calf involved in that too. And then on January 3rd, we got reports at Orca Network, our sighting network, received reports of a little orca calf in what is called Swinomish Canal, near a town named Laconner, which has a lot of seaside restaurants. And people dining were seeing this little calf, like a 10-foot long, little, distinct, obvious, clearly an orca calf, swimming up and down the canal. And this is unheard of. That never happens. So that was quite a shock. And then let's see, about a week later, on the 11th, another report of that calf came in from a tugboat captain. There's a little orca up and down the side of our boat, and it won't go away, and it's looking up at us, like, what's going on here? Who is this calf? And then on the 13th of January, that little calf showed up at near the ferry dock on the north end of Vashon Island, and that ferry connects over to West Seattle, and was going up to all the boats. And of course, the ferry is filled with people, and so they were all out on the deck, and the little calf was spy hopping and looking at them and kind of relating to them all, and seemed incredibly friendly and gregarious, and would follow the boat, back and forth as it went from West Seattle back to Vashon Island, and come up to little boats and just be, way too friendly and way too alone. And so the next day, Ken Balcom, Center for Whale Research, went down to find out who is this, and got recordings and underwater photos. You can show an underwater photo if you like. And that, I think I sent you some. Yeah, that's Springer. So Springer came right up to them on the boat, Ken and Mark in this little boat. And Ken, just for fun, he kind of waved his arms, in this big kind of propeller motion. And sure enough, Springer got it immediately and said, okay, I'll play that little game. And so she rolled over, with her pec fins in the air. And, no training involved. This was just a little game. She wanted to engage. And so, but still a big problem. So over the next 6 months, there were massive discussions, controversies, agendas. 3 marine parks volunteered, we'll take her, and so there was massive uproar. No, 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 you can't have her. But then what will we do? Because it is kind of dangerous. And she did look bad at first. She was pockmarked. She was, too thin. But she parked herself. Not only was that a very popular place where there were a lot of people going by and a lot of excitement for her, but it was also a great fishing hole for steelhead salmon, and other fish that she loved to eat, of course, and she could eat. And one thing to keep in mind is that she was catching fish on her own. And she was less than 2 years old. And so think about this. She lost her mother, who had died way up on the north end of Vancouver Island, 300 or 400 miles north of here. And she came south by herself, had to be catching fish. I mean, she can't go, more than a day or two without fish. So she had to be catching fish, not enough, but she was catching fish. And then she got down to Vashon Island, and basically fed herself just fine. She was very competent. And so that was at less than 2 years old. And now Toki was captured at about 4 years old. So she had learned very well how to catch fish, all the social skills she needed. She was completely competent as a southern resident orca when she was captured at 4 years old. It's not the same as humans. You can't put a 4-year-old human in the woods, but both Luna in Nootka Sound and Springer down off Vashon Island were doing quite well in terms of feeding themselves and taking care. What they lacked was social engagement. They needed companionship. They needed love and affection. They needed to play with somebody. They needed some attention and some company. And they both showed that they were desperately in need of that. So let's see. Okay, we don't have a lot of time to finish the story, but it was really.
It's okay, Howard. If we go over today, this is lots of animal stories that were started. So it's
okay, because it's a great story.
It's a great story.
So it took a lot of coordination, and a lot of very careful planning to make sure. Yeah, see, she didn't look that good when she first arrived, and so there was a lot of worry about her. But she did, improve, but not get completely well, while she was off Vashon Island for 6 months until July, actually. And at that time, finally there was a coordination of NOAA and the Canadian Department of Fisheries and Oceans, and a whole lot of nonprofits and some private donors. And the Prescott Fund actually funded that, which is a fund that was set up to pay for stranding networks, to equip and pay for people to take care of any marine mammal on a beach. alive or dead. Dead, then you do an examination and necropsy, you find out what's going on. Alive, you do whatever rehabilitation you can, or you educate the you educate the public all along the way about what to do if you see a seal pup on a beach. And this is pupping season right now, and there are seal pups on the beach. And if you see one, stay away, but call a stranding network, whatever is your local stranding network. So that's what the fund was for. And it was, a little bit of a, redefinition of it to say that this is to help a potentially stranded orca, little Springer, A73. So that paid for the capture. And the capture was risky, but it was done well. It was accomplished, led by Jeff Foster, who is the person who is, at last report, to my knowledge, is heading up the process of finding a rehabilitation location for Toki, a retirement center, a CPEN site in a cove. He has a lifetime of experience handling, transporting, taking care of uh, captive orcas. And here is the stretcher. What Jeff did was, get in the water. They very carefully maneuvered, and we were actually watching this, Susan and I, from a nearby ferry. And in the half hour, an hour before this capture happened, Springer was incredibly active. Maybe she knew there was big attention on her right then, but she breached. We counted 6 breaches. So this is a good example of a stretcher. This was, of course, tailor-made for Springer, who was about 10 feet long. So if you just sort of doubled the size of it, it's like a nice, big, comfy fleece jacket, that she wore, and that would be what Toki will be lifted out of her tank in Miami into a container that is half full of water, so she'll kind of float and be transported back. So in this case, Springer was captured, which was delicate. She didn't like it at first. She kind of tried to sort of squirm away, but they were able to get, soft ropes in the stretcher around her and lift her onto the back of a boat, and then transport her just a mile or two. Well, that was later. That was a month later. That was the transport boat that took her up to her home in British Columbia. But before that, she had to go to a temporary pen in Puget Sound, where she was rehabilitated, where she was, fed, and actually they took great pains to avoid all human contact with her. They fed her through a long tube so that she couldn't see that it was humans doing it. Duh, she's not that dumb. I think she knew where it was all coming from, but she couldn't see anybody. She couldn't relate to anybody. I think that deprived her of some companionship myself, but that was the protocol that they used. And they beefed her up, bulked her up, gave her a whole lot of food. She did gain a couple of 100 pounds, and it was good for her. They dewormed her, they did all the medical procedures, and sure enough, she just shined. She began to look real good and act real good, and so she was ready. And so that's when, that big hovercraft, that trimer or catamaran, took her speedy boat up to up to Johnstone Strait, up to a pen that was prepared for her in a place called Dongchong Bay. The Namjas tribe up there of First Nations allowed them to use their territory, and they greeted her with ceremony, and had a large stock of salmon that they fed her. And That was, I believe, July 13th. So she'd been, uh, down here for a little over 6 months, and probably, we don't know when she left her family, when she got left behind somehow, uh, maybe in a storm or who knows. But at any rate, we don't know how long she had been on her own, but well over 6 months. Yeah, that was her later after she rejoined her family. But what was remarkable was that the day after she arrived and was in the pen and was being fed, uh, her family came back for the year. I mean, they had been gone, as they can, always do, basically over the winter. They had been way up in Alaska, but they tended to return in mid-July. So the timing of her return was for that, and it was perfect because the day after she arrived, they arrived. And so she heard their calls. All of this was monitored, of course, by multiple scientists with hydrophones in many locations. So they heard her family, she heard her family, and got very anxious and very eager and really wanted to get out of there. And so after a couple of hours, I think the next morning, uh, they let her out. They opened the gate, and when she left, and at the photo with the fish in her mouth again, because that's that moment. Uh, when when she left that gate, she took a fish out to her family. It was an offering. I mean, in my belief, because of course they share their food all the time. 90% of their food is shared with their family members. And so that was her offering to rebuild that trust and that relationship, and to let them know that she was one of them, and here's a fish, my token of goodwill. And it was a beautiful sort of a cultural traditional kind of thing to do. Um, but in spite of that, it didn't go instantly. It wasn't automatic. She came up to them and then stopped a couple of hundred yards away, and kind of hovered around and kind of followed them around, but didn't jump right in. And she went with them to the rubbing rocks, and I don't know if she participated. I don't think we know that, but she at least was, sort of with them, but at a slight distance. Um, and it took a while until, because her mother had died, so her mother was not there, but her grandmother and her aunt were there, and they took her in. They eventually kind of adopted her and made her one of the family. Um, and after that happened, since then, and that was 2 or 3 days after she, went out to greet them with that fish. Uh, since then, she has been, a member of the Northern resident community, and has had 2 calves since that time. And last October, yeah, there she is with one of her calves. In 2011 and 2017, she had calves. Um, so she was reported last October, I guess from a drone photo of her girth, showing that she was pregnant again. So she may bring forth a new baby in the next few months. So an unqualified success, a very happy ending, and also very educational for all of us to see how it can work to rejoin a family. Of course, with Toki, it's been a whole lot longer. And in fact, there's only one member now who was alive when she was captured in 1970. So a little more difficult, not a guarantee that she'll be able to rejoin her family. We have faith. I have a lot of confidence that can happen, but there's no precedent. And so, I mean, for them, not to mention for scientists, but so it will be highly unusual, but Springer showed that it sure can happen.
And I could see Alejandro's smile and Deb's smile and Roberto's smile, because I know we're all thinking the same thing. Just we know that's just. And someone posted that a while ago. Like, imagine how great this is going to be, and we say that all the time. Like, it's just going to be fabulous. So yes, there's so many stories, from just successes, and some that some people don't think were successes, but they were successes. And so Free Willy, we heard from the new director and of Centers for Whale Research, what got you started on this. Free Willy, I mean, just look at the inspiring story with Keiko, and now with Springer, and just seeing, learning again, like you said, they're teaching us. Go ahead, Howard.
Well, I'm just looking at a question over here. Did was she attracted to humans after she was released up there to her family? And the answer is, in the first day or two, yes. She sort of, while she was not quite integrated, completely rejoined with her family, she did wander over to some boats. And what happened was that her grandmother came right on out, headed her off, and redirected her right back in toward the orcas. So, they took care of that up there. Nobody else had to intervene. They put themselves and brought her right back into the fold.
So great. It's just such a good story, inspiring story. And this one that we're part of and creating is going to be just fabulous. People are saying thank you, Howard, for telling her story in such a wonderful way. I know we went over, and I don't think anybody's mad about that, because you could just, the enthusiasm, and just thank you so much for sharing, your firsthand knowledge, and for all your years of experience. People are just super happy about that. Alejandro, any words you want to say? Any final words to everyone out there who loves Alejandro?
Like I said, I think Lita will give us a big surprise, Howard. Because she came to this world to teaching us. So I think we're going to have a big surprise.
Yes.
I agree with Howard.
You too.
Yeah. Howard, any final words?
No, just thank you to everybody. I'm so grateful for us to come together, and Ed, for you to make sure that this happens, and do the fancy footwork to set it all up and bring everybody in and be so warm and welcoming and inviting to everyone to make it a wonderful time. So,
Thank
and
you.
Deb and Robert and everyone watching, and we'll be watching the recordings. Thank you.
And I appreciate, and Howard, thank you, because I know that you go back in and you answer these questions that are not getting answered on air. So thank you for taking the time to do that. So guys, if you still have questions about anything Howard talked about today, feel free to type in the questions, and I bet Howard will get with you. A couple of things, I know we do announcements, but Roberto, any final words for us and those of us praying every day?
Well, I just read a comment by Suzanne. I think she says, "I can imagine TokiTV in that sling." So let's imagine. There she is. Yeah, let's do that. Actually, we are many in body, one in mind, with that unified goal. The more of us, the better. That way, we can speed up that time.
I love that.
Yes.
What a great picture in your heads while we're praying.
Yes. I mean, all that we are talking about, all of this attention and care to the orcas, all that happened from TokiTV's tour of grief is about awareness, about care, and prayer. Care and prayer, and awareness, learning, it all follows from that, and those become sacred activism and sacred actions. So
Wonderful. Yes.
Yes,
What
thank you.
happens and is happening. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Deb, any words? No words? She's a you're on mute. I just want to hear your laugh. I just want to hear.
I was going to say that was a tough show to follow, so I don't think so.
All right, guys. So check out the Orca Network Facebook page. There's a video on there called on the post about TokiTV's child. I was going to play it on here, but I'll let you guys just go because you should check out the page anyway. Make sure you know how to get there and follow that page so that you can follow along the 17 days of action. And I also want to remind you guys, if you haven't sent your videos to us, please do. I have a lot of likes, but not as many videos. So send in your videos, please, answering the question, what does Toki's return home mean to you? And get those sent in to TokiTV2022@gmail.com. Again, it could be just a few seconds, a couple of words, up to a minute. I had someone send me a 6-minute video. I am going to have to edit that, but you know what? Say what you feel. We just want to hear all your voices in this project that we're doing. And just a reminder that on August the 7th, we're teaming and co-hosting with Orca Network on the 52 years of her capture, focusing on the fact that times have changed, things are happening, healing the waters. We're going to bring her home, you guys. So please don't forget, send in your videos. If you have any questions, you can send an email to that as well, or just send me a messenger. Yeah, just reminder, stay positive, don't give up. We will bring her home. Let's keep visioning her in that sling on her way home as we pray this week. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We love each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And yeah, have a wonderful